We'll be taking care of PV every day. Taking care of PV everywhere. We've been taking care of PV. It's all ours. Taking care of PV and investing in our town, PV. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. We'll be taking care of
Welcome to PV in Focus, where we are learning about different aspects of our town of Prescott Valley government and our community. And I am really excited today for those that are joining us on the video cast or YouTube, as well as our podcast. Today with me is Joel Schieffer, who is our emergency manager, and we're going to be learning all about emergency management here in the town of Prescott Valley. So Joel, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So how long have you been with Prescott Valley? And what is your role as an emergency manager for the town?
I've been in Prescott Valley for just over a year now. My role as emergency manager for the town is to really take the lead and handle all things emergency related. So that might come down to the mitigation planning for emergencies, planning, response, recovery aspects of emergency management. A lot of that has to do with the planning and how to prepare the community to best respond to these types of emergencies.
So just for everyone that's tuning in on this particular episode, you're not law enforcement.
Not
So
law
when-
enforcement.
When someone dials 911, Joel Schieffer is not showing up in a car, the red and blue lit up, right?
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Hopefully
All right.
not.
So you're more at a plan, really planning and making sure our community is prepared for emergencies. You work closely with the police department, fire department, or CAFMA,
Yep.
and other entities, state agencies, county entities.
Yeah, I've worked in emergency management, depending on where you look at my start, probably about 15, 16 years now. And I've managed emergency management from the law enforcement side, from the fire department side, public sector, and I've really found that the best and the most impact that I can have with the community is with the leadership of the town manager's office, where I can really affect those change and help the police side, help the fire side, and help that coordination.
Were you always interested in emergency management, or how did you find your way into that profession?
Going back a long ways, I got into doing executive and dignitary protection. And part of that is what they call the advance role, where you go out ahead of the person you're protecting, you make all the contacts, you make sure everything is prepared. And I really had a knack for that. And that was way before I'd even heard of emergency management. And some of the people I'd worked for said, you really should get into this. You're great at that. You have a knack for that. So I started looking into it a little bit more. And that kind of shifted my career to go from executive dignitary protection and start learning about emergency management.
Well, kind of digging into that, tell us about the training. So you kind of, had a taste of it with dealing with dignitaries and executive level. And so what's the training background that you have that you've had to acquire over the years? And then any certifications that you hold as part of being an emergency manager?
There is countless training when it comes to this type of role. I had a lot of security type training, advanced training from my previous role. That shifted into doing some risk management, consulting, corporation and industrial type of risk management safety. I've always kind of had a passion for public safety in one way or the other. I'm a pilot with the Civil Air Patrol, did volunteer search and rescue with Sheriff's Department, things like that in the past. When it comes to specific emergency management training, there are countless FEMA courses that you have to start taking. And then as you go through those levels, there are things like the FEMA advanced courses, FEMA APS. I'm from California, where they have a lot of emergency practice with all their emergencies, and there are various state level certifications, federal certifications, some international certifications to go through. And all of these take into account your experience, your responses, what type of coursework you've taken, things like that. So it's really a never-ending process to continue and keep updating your training.
So taking all that training and having worked with you now for a number of months and getting to see you begin to establish kind of that really good emergency management a mindset of let's prepare, let's have things in place. What are some of the things that you are now working on for the town of Prescott Valley on behalf of our residents and businesses? What are some of the key projects that you're engaged with as it relates to emergency management?
Well, a couple of the things that are at top of my mind is emergency notifications for the public. For quite some time, we've had various systems to allow text messaging, voice calls, emails, things like that. We have this year, or actually last year, we've migrated to a unified system along with the City of Prescott, our dispatch center, Prescott Valley, and that now is very successful in getting a lot of subscribers going. That is the messaging platform called Rave. So you can do the Smart 911 app. There are multiple ways you can sign up.
So this is an app that you can download, and where if someone's listening or watching us, where would you go to get that app?
You can download the Smart 911 app. You can also go to our website, or you can go to PrescottValleyAlerts.gov. There are many ways you can get to the sign-up portal for that app. Okay. They are very particular when it comes to privacy information, so they do ask you to put in a lot of details, phone numbers, landline phone numbers, addresses, things like that. It's all very secured. I don't even have access to that myself, even though I administer the system. Mm-hmm. And that really is the best and only official way that we will reach out to residents. We also encourage them to follow our official social media accounts, as we have an excellent comms department, and they put stuff out on social media about as quickly as we can decide it. One of the other apps that we have as of last year is called Genesis Protect. And these are both free apps, by the way, to download. Genesis Protect requires for its best effectiveness that you have your location services of your device on. This will tell you if you are in an active evacuation area. It will tell you where your evacuation centers are, where you should be going, what you should do, and we can send you status updates through that. And I actually saw it just last week. I was driving a little bit cross country, and I drove through an area that had an active evacuation. And it dinged on my phone and said, "You have entered an active evacuation area. Please read this notice." And
so this is something. So again, not only for our local community, a great way for our residents to have access to these emergency notifications, but if you're traveling too, these are systems that other entities, jurisdictions across the country may be utilizing and can help in a particular situation.
Yeah, Yavapai County uses Genesis Protect. And they are spreading throughout the country to be a very effective notification system. So I definitely highly recommend those two apps for your information and awareness. And some of the other areas that I'm looking into and working on updating right now is our planning and our documentation. We've always had an emergency operations plan. We've always had a continuity of operations plan. But I'm looking to update those, renew those, and kind of work on streamlining those a little bit. Also on my plan is to have some updated hazard mitigation plans, some updated response plans. You can rarely have too many plans when it comes to emergency management.
I've noticed it, and having worked with emergency managers for, throughout my career, there's a lot of, preparing and planning and thinking about the unexpected, right? And what are all the different contingencies? And can you talk a little bit more about those particular planning documents? What's kind of in them, and how do they, help guide the actions of the different aspects of the town government, whether it's the police department, the fire district, any of our other staff that may be involved in in an emergency?
Yeah, and that's the planning documentation is something I approach a little cautiously. Because I've been in some areas in the past that had so many, let's call them playbooks, for example. And when an emergency or disaster would happen, some people get stuck in the playbook and they follow step 1, 2, 3. And if step 4 doesn't align with what is going on, they can freeze and they don't know where to go next. So I'm a big proponent of having documentation and having plans, but having them be loose enough that they have some flexibility. So to touch on those a little bit, our emergency operations plan explains a little bit about how the departments act during an emergency, what some of their primary roles would be, how the chain of authority would impact that emergency response. The Prescott Valley Police Department has their own plans when it comes to this type of thing, but they are also a part of our emergency operations plan, as is CAFMA. CAFMA has their own plans, but they are an integral part of our operations plan.
So, our town has had emergencies in the past, wildland fires, flooding events, and it is, oftentimes a concern for residents that they raise when we're out talking in the, different aspects of the community, the HOAs or any town meeting, of, what are you guys going to do in emergency? So let's say we're dealing with a wildland fire, hypothetical wildland fire. Let's say it's up in North PV. What is your role? Like, what are you doing, and what are we trying to, do to help assist residents with that particular emergency?
Well, last year we went and we spoke with a lot of the homeowners associations, a lot of the subdivisions, and just made them aware that I'm here, that I'm working on some of the solutions to some of these issues. One of the most important things is notifications, to keep the public notified of what's going on, of what they should do. Something else that I'm actively working on is evacuations and evacuation routes. There are some subdivisions within the area of Prescott Valley that do have adequate roads, but we could always improve our evacuation routes. So I'm looking at ways, especially when it comes to some of the areas on the outskirts of PV, some of the ways that we can add additional evacuation routes or streamline the flow of traffic. When it comes to residents, some of my best advice would be to download the apps, make sure you are signed up for communications, for notifications, know where you are, know how to get out of your area, practice a couple different drives, know what the fastest way in or out might be. When it comes to your personal property, make sure that you are as prepared and resilient as you feel you can be. So that might include making your property fire-wise, cutting back trees, considering where water might flow should we have a flooding type incident. Also make sure that you are prepared in your home for yourself. For probably decades now, everyone has kind of pushed that you have a 3-day supply pack, 3 days of food, 3 days of water, things like that to be self-resilient. We've found over the years, especially with some of the larger disasters, if you have to shelter in place, that 3 days may not be adequate. So now we're urging everyone to have at least a week's worth of supplies. That could be food, water filtration, medications are extremely important.
Joel, if you're again a resident and you're not, really familiar with all of this, you're thinking about emergency preparedness, or, where could someone go to just kind of start to think about like that list of things that you just described, whether it's, the food, what types of food, how to store it, what other things should people be thinking about around their property? What are the little things that everyone could do that just makes them a little bit more prepared during those unexpected moments?
One of the best resources I can think of is our town official website. There is an emergency management page, a department section in there, and it is a work in progress, so I am working with our communications team to have updates and include information in there. But there are a lot of links there to some FEMA best practices. Ready.gov is another great resource. And as things go on and we have more apps that are involved, more plans, more documentation, I'm going to include a lot of that in the emergency management page of our website. Right now, there are no emergency operations plans or COOP plans listed. not all of the documentation will be listed for security and for infrastructure protection purposes, but some of the basic versions will be available for the public to review and the public to contact me and provide some input on.
And again, I think for anyone that's listening or watching, this YouTube video is, it's prescottvalley-az.gov, and we do have information on there. More information will be coming for the public, but it's very important that we've got a community that is engaged, knows where to go for information, and has access to some of the tools that we have to keep people informed in the moment through the apps and website and other notification systems. So Joel, to kind of wrap it up, I want, what is the ideal state of a community in terms of emergency preparedness? What does that look like? What is the role of the residents, the town government? If everything were done perfectly, what does that look like?
If I had my wish, every single resident and visitor who comes through Prescott Valley would be signed up for RAVE emergency notifications, rave alerts.
So sign up
for the alerts.
Sign up for the alerts. That's one.
Everyone in the area would have the Genesis Protect app on their device with the location services enabled, so we could tell you if you're in an active evacuation area and steer you to a shelter. The plans, the documentation, everything would be 100% done, completed, and I would be in a maintenance state to where I wouldn't need to edit or do extensive updates to the documentation. I would just do annual updates to make sure everything was correct and polished. And we would have ongoing exercises at a predetermined cadence, maybe quarterly, that our town staff could participate in emergency management exercises. We can involve Prescott Valley PD, Sheriff's Office, City of Prescott, CAFMA, and really have everyone within the whole region participating and practicing for those emergency exercises. Emergencies are never or rarely routine, but I want everyone to be prepared here and resilient enough that if we do have that major disaster, everyone automatically knows what to do, where to go, and how to behave, and how to keep themselves safe.
And that's, just to kind of conclude it, we do live, I think, in a beautiful part of our state. We are on the fringe with wildland, with, forests and grasslands. So that always, creates, some opportunities or challenges for an emergency to occur. But we also live in a great, state that we don't have maybe necessarily, hurricane threats that you may have along coastal areas, or, severe earthquakes. There are some fault lines. We've had, some little a rumble here or there, but, nothing of a major magnitude. Wildland fire certainly is an issue. Flooding could be an issue. Winter storms could be an issue. But some of those, we kind of have a little bit of advanced knowledge of those, maybe a day or two that we know a storm's coming in. We need to let people know to be prepared. So I say this because I just think it's important. We've got emergency planning, and emergencies can be, an unexpected thing. But really the big ones that we worry about, we tend to know, dry conditions, it's going to be really windy, be prepared type of thing, right?
Yeah, obviously some of our biggest risks are wildfire, flooding risks, monsoon, winter storm risks. I've learned over the years to not take our vulnerability assessments or risk assessments for granted, meaning I'm always under the influence that anything can happen here. We do have some earthquake faults.
There could be, plane crash, a tanker turns over, it could be any number of other things.
Hazardous materials incidents. We could have a major earthquake just off the, now our fresh volcano threat is probably pretty low. I think it's safe to say we're not going to have a major tsunami threat here. Right. But other than that, I think we need to be prepared for any incident that can happen.
Well, we value having you and your expertise on our team and helping to serve our residents and businesses in this community. So Joel, thank you so much for being here today, talking a little bit about what you do and making sure that we have a safe community. And so thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And for everyone that listening on this and watching on this episode, thank you for tuning in. We always appreciate residents and people paying attention to what we're doing here in PV and learning more about our great community. We are kind of moving this to a once a month spotlight. We are going to be rolling out some other ways that we are going to continue to kind of dig in on issues affecting our community and really highlighting other community partners, whether it's work that's being done in the medical care and health care within our community, our school districts and business community, and really kind of doing some of those highlights as well. So thank you very, very much and have a great rest of your day.
We'll be taking care of PV.